my name's Chloe. I'm one of the 2 green shoots, and this week's how-to video, as voted by you, will explore pests and pest control. Now when you think of pests in your garden, slugs, snails, aphids probably come to mind. In fact, these are all species that form a really important part of the food web within our gardens. So in regards to slugs and snails, they break down organic matter to produce soil, which we need. So our role as gardeners is, in fact, instead of exterminating these species and trying to eradicate them altogether, is actually just to balance out their numbers and support that web of life. And in today's video we're going to be showing you some of the ways we do that within our gardens here in Glengarry. So one of the first things we did within our gardens when we first arrived was to put in a wildlife pond, and wildlife ponds are the single best thing you can do to support that balance of species within your garden. They bring in a whole host of predatory amphibians and invertebrates that will actually help to eat those pests. So for example, frogs. Just yesterday we spotted our first newts within our garden, which is incredibly exciting. We've got a number of breeding pairs in the water here, so hopefully we'll get a lot more numbers over the coming years. So when we first took on this garden, it was completely covered in rhododendron, and what we did is we cut up all of the stems to make logs, and these we've grouped together to create a really spectacular seating space or a loggery. And what's brilliant about this, as well as utilising these logs to create a structure, we've actually created an incredible home for particularly frogs and newts. This whole area is sited right beside the pond, so they can go from the water then up into the logs for the cover that they need for their life on land the rest of the year. So all of the twiggy upper branches of the rhododendron, and indeed any other branches that we've cut down in making space in the garden, we saved to create a dead hedge. And all the dead hedges is 2 rows of stakes put in the ground and then filled down the middle with all of that brash. And it creates the most incredible habitat for hedgehogs, for nesting birds, and also acts as a giant bug hotel. Creating homes for your wildlife in your garden is so vitally important, and as well as those loggeries and those dead hedges, nest boxes are a fantastic way to bring birds into your garden. We've got nest boxes up all around the gardens here, and it's an absolute thrill to see birds moving into them. If you'd like to make your own, there are loads of places online you can go to find instructions on how to, or you can buy nest boxes ready-made, but just be mindful that the size of the doorway or the hole into that nest box will control what species of bird can actually set up home. We also put in bat boxes, and bats are absolutely brilliant, particularly in here in Glengarry, where we have quite a lot of midges that aren't so much of a pest for our plants but are for us gardeners. So by bringing bats into our garden, we can help to make a little bit of a dent in those midgie numbers, as bats eat about 3,000 midges a night. In our garden, every time we go digging we hit rock. And what we do is save it up and use that to make dry stone walls, as well as being really functional and helping to make beds and borders and edge paths. They are a fantastic habitat. We've noticed a lot of birds nesting within the dry stone walls around our garden. They're also brilliant for those amphibians again to hide out in, like your newts and your frogs. One of the other brilliant ways of bringing predatory insects into your garden, and in fact birds, is to develop a wildflower meadow. So this area was just very short grass when we first arrived, and we've been changing the management to support the establishment of a wildflower meadow, and that is as simple as letting the grass grow long and then introducing a species called yellow rattle, which is a little parasitic flower that weakens grass and allows lots more wildflowers to come in. And it's those wildflowers that will attract predatory insects, which will in turn, by coming into your garden, eat aphids off your crops. So in some cases, munches and holes in leaves around your garden aren't too much to be worried about. They can be quite a temporary thing, and this is a great example. I've got 2 leaves, one with a couple of bites taken out, and the other one to show you is a normal leaf. In fact, this is the work of a leaf cutter bee that will be creating its nest using leaves at this time of year. It's just part of, as I said, that web of life within your garden, and appreciating that some species will be having a nibble here and there and then leaving your plants alone, so don't worry. Third area of pest control is actually starting with your plants and making sure they're really healthy. So choose fresh seed, and then eventually when your plants are ready for putting out in the garden, make sure that you take time to harden them off. So that is taking them out during the day for about a week, and then bring them in during the night. So making sure they're, when they do finally get planted in the garden, they aren't stressed and they're not going to be shocked by the temperature change. The other thing that's really important to healthy plants is soil. So make sure that you add as much organic matter as you can to your soil. We do that in 2 ways. We add compost whenever we plant a plant, and we mix that in with the soil that's already there. And every year we mulch the garden. And so in the autumn we actually use seaweed. We go out and we collect lots and lots of bags of seaweed and then spread it over the ground, and the worms then work that organic matter into the ground for you all winter long. There's no digging involved, and you end up with a really mineral, nutrient rich organic matter that you can plant into. Another thing to think about is where you put your plants. Now hostas, we absolutely love eating. We use them as a food crop in our garden, but they're absolutely loved by slugs and snails. So we've put these ones along by the side of a pond. And ponds, as you well know, attract lots of frogs, and frogs in turn will eat those slugs and snails. So the 4th area of pest control is using barriers. A good example of that are with brassicas, so kale or cabbage. We often use netting to prevent cabbage whites, butterflies, from coming in contact and laying their eggs, and then their caterpillars eating your delicious cabbage and your kale plants and smithereens. So some of the other barriers that you can put in place to stop your pest getting in contact with your crop are, the example of slugs and snails, you can put crushed up seashells, coffee grounds, rough rock, sand. You can make collars out of yogurt pots by putting a jagged edge on the top. We find a combination of all of those and throwing as much at it, it works the best. And the final type of barrier control is actually to look at the height that you're planting your plants at. So the best example of that, for instance, are carrots. And carrots are preyed on the carrot fly. Carrot fly only like flying up to about a foot in height. So if you put carrots in raised beds that are taller than about a foot, you'll find you have much less damage from carrot fly. So think about the height as well. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you found today's video helpful. If you've got any questions, as ever, sow them below or feel free to email us. And we always love hearing from you. Please do carry on sending your requests in for future videos.